Good morning and welcome to a midweek update. I think what I'm going to do here is my midweek updates are going to be kind of the stuff that I do building and the rest of that stuff. The weekly updates are going to be left to just an overall update for what has happened, not the actual nuts and bolts of what I'm working on. But you can see I've been working on this, and you know what, let me turn around. Good morning to you. It's the next day after I recorded the first episode and already got a couple of changes, so let's take a look. Okay, so yesterday I actually managed to get this done. I pulled out the bush. I've got a time lapse, which I may do as a separate video, or I might just put a little bit of it here just so you can get an idea what it took to actually remove it. Anyway, I took care of that, and it revealed all of this ground here to work with. I've got this sprinkler head. I've got to decide how I want to work with this. It's actually coming up out of the ground at this point and then running across. I got to decide if I want to make any changes on that. But what I noticed yesterday was just how messy this, let me just sort of get you in the planter here. This whole section here it's not the neatest thing. I think it used to be further back, which means I probably need to pull out those particular blocks and excavate back a little bit, and then figure out what to do with all the other stone that's there. I cleaned off the shelf a little bit here. The plan was I was going to put another block like up against here and then put a paver on top. But my father's popped out and said, oh, no, I don't need to have a whole pathway back there. What he does need is he's got his rose bushes, which, let me see if I can back up a little bit without falling in the pool. You can kind of see the roses back here, and so you can see the base of the roses. And to be able to get to, because all my plants were here last year, it was hard for him to get back to that particular rose right there. So ultimately what I'm going to do is carve out a path running across, so he can just put a step stool here, get up onto here, and then walk across and get to that rose so he can do the pruning and fertilizing that he needs to do. So that's a little bit of a change from what I was planning. I was looking at from this end of this whole big planter area all the way back to the other end. I was going to put about 8 boxes, and I just kept thinking to myself, okay, I can fit 8 boxes in here, but what am I going to put in those 8 boxes? So I think what I'm going to do is I'll take 1 box out. There was also a little bit of extra gap space that I wasn't too sure about. So I'll make it 7 boxes, or I might even make it 6 boxes. I haven't decided yet, but I'll leave him a good path that he can get through. And that'll just be an interruption in the garden here, but there's a lot of planting space here. And on top of that, the subject was brought up that this stuff on the side here, this part of the hill, really needs to be terraced. In other words, we need to flatten out a section and then build up another section behind it. So basically it's a set of steps, but very wide steps, maybe 16 feet wide. I have to take some measurements and figure some of that out. Then we'll have to go get some 4x4s and some steel pipe or rebar or something. I've got to figure out exactly how I want to do the terracing. We do have one section that we terraced. Not really terraced. We put a little retaining wall with 4x4s. Let me show you. That's over here in the cactus garden, which I don't really talk about much because there's not a whole lot of maintenance needed except for pulling the weeds that manage to grow in between these thorny things. But if you look in the background, you can see we've got 4x4s stacked up about 3 high. And if I remember right, we actually drove nails through them. And if you look there, you can see a joint. Hopefully that's coming through. So we staggered the joints so that they're not right on top of each other, which makes it that much stronger. And it's already kind of leaning forward a little bit. I mean, we did this years ago, but I think that's what he's thinking, is doing something like this. And like, do we make it 2 high? Do we make it 3 high? I think ultimately we get a bunch of wood and we just start working and we can figure it out. The trick is the slope. and matching the slope reasonably well. So that's a whole other project I'm going to have to get into. It's going to be part of the construction for the early part of the year, I think. But I do want to get, there's where I was talking about before. It's right next to the cactus garden. But yeah, I want to get this going. I want to get that area cleaned up. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. You know, sometimes I start a project like this without a clear plan, except that I just kind of wanted to reset the bricks and make them look that much better. I've excavated a bunch of bricks. I've pulled out a bunch of soil. Ultimately, we've got this, what do you call it? Basically a wall holding up the hill. And looking at how it was done before, it was kind of, I don't know how to describe it without being insulting, so better not to say too much, but it wasn't the neatest job. And I could see things like that one brick right there may be at about the right height, but the one that was right next to that section of the wall was a little too high. Ultimately, what I want to do is I want to make it go continuous from here to there on one level, and then go up a level with a brick and try and hold back the hill, although I've got this big root which I think is coming from this tree here, and so I'm going to cut that off and hope that it doesn't affect the tree too much, so I can get basically a nice slanted, instead of a curve, I'll just go for a slant and then connect it into the part going straight this way. So I'll have straight here, I'll have straight there, and then I'll have basically a slant going from here across to about there. So I'm hoping that'll all work out. I'm hoping I have enough brick. I got 6 of them up on the hill, got one more down here. I may excavate this one out and not put it back if I need it to fill all that in, but ultimately that'll make a wider sort of swath, and I think it'll look that much neater in the end. Okay, that's about it for the day. You kind of get the idea now what I was aiming for. So that's it. I'm gonna quit, hose myself off, and pick up again tomorrow. Good morning, folks. It's 2 days later, and it's 2 days later because yesterday I decided, with the pandemic getting as bad as it is, and I'm here in LA, and they're calling us now the epicenter of the pandemic for the US. It's bad. We got like 1 in 5 people is infected right now, and I don't want to get caught up in that. So I am, let's see if we can't open the door here. What I did was yesterday I went out and I got lumber, and a little bit more left over from the previous trip out. I wanted to get all the lumber I'm going to need for a little while so that I can get this done. But a couple other things we got to do this morning. So we're going to have kind of a family day of weeding. Weeding and cleaning up around here. You can see actually this bush here is growing into the slide for the pool. There's the pool. So we got to trim that back. I mean, it's really bad up above, so we're going to trim that back. And Mom wants to get up here and pull the dead stuff out of here. So I'm going to actually deadhead, because it turns out I haven't had a whole lot of success, but I mean, these heads come right off the marigold, and this is full of seeds. So I'm going to pull as many of these as I can and put them somewhere, at least briefly, so that I can actually have marigold seeds to add to the garden. So that's the plan for the moment. That, and yeah, I think when I get back to my regular stuff, I'll continue. Okay, so now I've given them a bit of a head start. Trim that one bush, trim this one here. A little hard to see with the sun coming right at it. And just kind of did a quick sweep up of everything. Basically got the stuff out for them, so they've got a head start. Now, swing back over to that corner and do my own stuff. You know, honestly, I'm not used to having myself in frame, so give me a few videos to kind of get that locked down. But this is what things look like on a Wednesday morning. Monday, I put together, I rebuilt this wall here after excavating parts out. I think what I'm going to do is I've actually got another block that I'm going to put right about there, to kind of give more support to this wall in case it starts to push in that direction. Plus, I just happen to have that particular block, so I'm going to go ahead and use it here. I'm trying to do what I can so I don't have to step into the bed here anymore, and once I get to that point, then I can actually start building the planters. And I'm going to put the first, it's going to be like an 18 by 18 going in here. I'm going to fit one there, and fit one there, and then I can fit about a 9-inch. Let me just show you the wall in the front here. These blocks are 18 inches, so 18-inch planter, 9-inch planter, but back in there. And then over here we're going to end up with another 18. Let me see if I can get my finger in shot. There we go. 18, 18, and then we're going to have a pathway here so Dad can get past and up to the roses there, and then we'll have another 18 and another 18. So that's what I bought all my lumber for, so I could actually build all of those. It's going to take me a while to get around to building everything, but I want to just sort of not have to go out for a couple of weeks, and then we'll see where the pandemic takes us. I don't want to get sick in the middle of all of this, folks. I don't want you to get sick either. So let's just see what this all turns into, and I'll give you an update soon. Alright, before I do any more excavation and tire myself out, let me just take care of some of the weeds up here so we're not tempted to climb up on this wall too soon. Alright. Okay, that's enough weeding for today. There's no point in going completely crazy trying to get a whole bunch of, I could go at it all day. I gotta go up the hill, I gotta go over, I gotta go all the way out to the front yard. So I'm just going to take like a half an hour to an hour a day and try and get back on top of it. Meanwhile, I've got down here, I want to get to building these actual planter boxes, but there's two things. One, I want to get that extra block in there, and two, this sprinkler head is just way too floppy. And I think a couple of years back when we extended it out or did some kind of repair, I had to come up, I think what it was is the original sprinkler head was coming up here. And so I just came up with, I need to look at it and see if there's a riser there or not, but ultimately came up elbow, came across, and it was inside the bush, so it really wasn't, it wasn't easy to work on. But now it's all cleared out, so I'm going to do some excavation, figure out what I got down here, and see if I can't get this down a little bit lower. So that's the next thing. Well, I kind of got a case of the might as wells. I started excavating out to figure out where the pipe was and figure all that out, and unfortunately you can see it ends right there because it broke off. Not the end of the world, but it turns out the pipe comes in there, comes across, and so what I had originally done ultimately ended up just moving it right back to the beginning there. I don't want to mess with this old pipe, so I think what I'm going to do, at least for now, is I'm going to take that elbow off, and I think there's another, there's another union there, or coupler is the word I'm looking for. Take the elbow and the coupler off, actually just the elbow, take it down to the coupler, and then I'll just take this straight part here and remount that for tonight because the sprinklers will go off tomorrow morning. It's fine if I don't get much water up over here, and it just kind of goes from this point over because that's what this thing is set up to do. That'll be fine for now. started excavating out because I figured, okay, I wanted to be able to show you what the where the pipe is. Unfortunately, it's kind of buried, but my back is starting to hurt, so I'm going to have to call it quits. I'm still going to have to put that together, but that's kind of where I am at the end of this particular day. I've excavated out enough that I've got enough depth now to get my planter box in. The planter box is going to be 11 inches tall, which will take it to flush with the back wall there, and also flush with the front wall. Not exactly flush with that, but you can see that there is this part here going up, so it'll be flush right across like that. That way, stepping on things, from back here you basically won't see the planter box, you just see the plants coming out of it. But the planter box is there to try and hold good soil in it and prevent other soil from getting into it. At the bottom I'm going to put landscape fabric, probably a couple of layers, just to make sure nothing comes up from below. And then I think what I'm going to do is take some of that landscape fabric, and where the pipe is here, in case I want to make a change in the future, I'm going to fold over a piece and put a bunch of rocks in it, just so that there's something holding the place there. I'm not going to be planting anything right at the edge here. At least I don't think I will be. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm going to give it some more thought, but we'll see. But I think that's going to wrap it up for today. So we'll pick up again tomorrow with that already fixed there.